Let me ask you something. How many promises have you made to yourself? And how many of them did you break? Not to others. Those are easy to keep. I'm talking about the quiet promises. The ones no one hears. The ones you make late at night. When you're honest with yourself, I'll start tomorrow. I'll be more disciplined. I'll change. And then tomorrow comes and nothing changes. You see, success doesn't begin with talent. It doesn't begin with opportunity. It begins with self-trust. Because the moment you break a promise to yourself, something inside you weakens. Confidence fades. Belief erodes. Discipline slips away. And the opposite is also true. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you grow stronger. You grow steadier. You grow more capable. That's why I've learned this simple truth. You don't build your life by making promises. You build your life by keeping them. Success is predictable. It's not luck. It's not magic. It's the result of small promises, kept consistently. Today, we're going to talk about the power of keeping promises to yourself. Because when you master that, you master your future. And everything else begins to fall into place. There is a contract you sign every day. No paper. No witnesses. No applause. Yet it is the most important agreement of your life. It is the contract you make with yourself. Every time you say, I'll wake up early. I'll read instead of scroll. I'll work on my goals. You are signing that contract. Quietly, privately. No one else may hear it. But you do. And here's the truth most people never think about. Every promise you make to yourself shapes who you believe you are. Not someday. Not later. Right now. When you keep a promise to yourself, something powerful happens. Your confidence grows. Your self-respect strengthens. Your identity begins to shift. You stop saying, I'll try. And you start saying, I do. But when you break that promise, when you tell yourself one thing and do another, you don't just lose time. You lose trust in yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of success. You see, the world doesn't decide your future first. You do. You decide it by the way you treat your own word. Most people think confidence comes from success. It doesn't. Confidence comes from keeping commitments, especially the small ones. When you say, I'll spend 30 minutes learning, and you do it, you send a message to yourself. I can be trusted. And that message changes everything. But when you say it and don't do it, your inner voice begins to doubt you. Over time, that doubt becomes identity. I'm not disciplined. I never finish. I can't stick to anything. Those beliefs didn't appear overnight. They were trained by broken promises. Here's what I learned years ago. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your self-belief. And self-belief is built through action, not talk. Your future is listening to how you treat yourself today. The silent contract you sign determines whether you become strong or weak, consistent or scattered, focused or frustrated. Every small promise matters. Getting up when you said you would, doing the work when no one is watching, showing up when it would be easier to quit. These moments shape your character. Character isn't built on big speeches. It's built on small decisions made consistently. And the world rewards character. Opportunity doesn't come to wishers. It comes to people who can be counted on. If you can't count on yourself, why should life count on you? Now, this isn't about being perfect. Perfection is a trap. This is about being intentional. Make fewer promises, but keep the ones you make. Start small, very small. Promise yourself you'll read 1 page. Promise yourself you'll walk for 10 minutes. Promise yourself you'll write 1 paragraph. Then keep it. And tomorrow, do it again. Because every kept promise strengthens the contract. Every kept promise strengthens you. Over time, something remarkable happens. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop arguing. You stop procrastinating. You act. And action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds success. This is where everything begins. Not with motivation, not with talent, but with a quiet decision. I will keep my word to myself. Because when you honor that silent contract, you begin to trust yourself again. And when you trust yourself, there is no limit to what you can build. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Not failure, not lack of talent, but something much quieter and far more damaging. Broken promises to yourself. Because every time you say, I'll start tomorrow, and tomorrow comes, and nothing happens, something inside you listens and remembers. You may forget the promise, but your mind does not. Each broken promise leaves a mark, not on your calendar, but on your confidence. At first, it feels small, almost harmless. You miss a workout. You skip the reading. You delay the work. You tell yourself, it's okay. I'll do it later. But later becomes a habit. And habits shape identity. Here's the danger most people don't see. Broken promises don't just waste time. They train your mind not to trust you. Over time, your inner voice changes. It stops saying, you can do this, and starts saying, what's the point? Discipline weakens. Motivation fades. Confidence erodes. Not because you're incapable, but because you've taught yourself to doubt your own word. And self-doubt is expensive. It costs you energy. It costs you momentum. It costs you opportunity. You begin to hesitate. You start second guessing. You delay decisions. And while you're hesitating, life keeps moving. This is how people get stuck. Not because they lack ideas, but because they lack self-trust. They don't believe they'll follow through. And if you don't believe in your own follow through, you won't set big goals. You won't take bold action. You won't risk growth. You'll stay safe and small. Here's a truth I learned the hard way. The more often you break promises to yourself, the smaller your life becomes, because you stop expecting much from yourself. And expectation shapes behavior. Now let me be clear. This isn't about guilt. Guilt doesn't build strength. Awareness does. You can't fix what you refuse to see. And once you see the pattern, you can change it. The moment you decide to keep even one small promise, the damage begins to reverse. You rebuild trust the same way you lost it. One decision at a time. One kept promise at a time. You don't need a dramatic comeback. You need consistency. Promise less. Deliver more. Stop telling yourself you'll do everything. Tell yourself you'll do one thing, and then do it. That's how self-trust is rebuilt. Because confidence is not loud. It is quiet certainty. And quiet certainty comes from evidence. Evidence that you can be relied upon. When you say you'll act, and you act, your mind relaxes. It says, okay, we can trust this. And once self-trust returns, discipline becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Momentum returns. This is not psychology. This is practice. Life responds to the person who keeps their word, even when no one is watching. So if you feel stuck, if you feel unmotivated, if you feel unsure of yourself, don't ask for confidence. Ask for integrity with yourself. Because when your word becomes solid again, so does your future. Let me ask you a question. Not to answer out loud. Not to explain to anyone else. Just answer it honestly. To yourself. What promise did you make 1 month ago? Think carefully. Don't rush. Was it about your health? Your work? Your learning? Your discipline? Maybe you said, I'll start waking up earlier. I'll work on my goals every day. I'll stop procrastinating. I'll change. Now comes the harder question. Did you keep that promise? Because this is where growth begins. Not with motivation, not with ambition, but with honest reflection. You see, life doesn't punish you for failing. It responds to what you practice. And most people never stop to review their promises. They move on. They forget. They make new ones. And the old ones quietly disappear. But your mind remembers. Every promise you make is recorded somewhere inside you. Every kept promise strengthens you. Every broken one weakens you. Not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly, silently, That's how character is formed. 1 month ago doesn't feel long, yet 1 month is enough time to tell the truth. If you didn't keep the promise, something stood in the way, and it wasn't time. It wasn't circumstances. It was discipline. Now don't misunderstand me. This is not about shame. Shame paralyzes. Reflection empowers. The purpose of this question is not to judge you. It's to wake you up. Because here's the truth. You don't drift into excellence. You drift into neglect. If you didn't keep the promise, ask yourself why. Did you promise too much? Did you promise something unrealistic? Did you promise without commitment? Most people don't fail because they aim too high. They fail because they promise too much and deliver too little. That creates a dangerous pattern. You begin to trust your excuses more than your word. And excuses are clever. They sound reasonable. They feel comforting, but they steal your future. Now let me ask the question again gently, but firmly. What promise did you make 1 month ago? If you kept it, pause, acknowledge it. That's strength. That's progress, even if the result was small. Because success is not built on dramatic wins. It's built on kept commitments. But if you didn't keep it, that's information, not failure. Information tells you where to adjust. Maybe the promise was too big. Then make it smaller. Promise less. Deliver more. Instead of promising an hour, promise 10 minutes. Instead of promising perfection, promise consistency. Here's what I've learned over the years. Discipline begins the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. If you keep pushing promises forward, you teach yourself that your word has no weight, and a life without weight is a life without impact. But the good news is this: self-trust can be rebuilt. Always. The moment you decide to keep one small promise, you begin again. You don't need to fix your whole life today. You just need to keep your word today. Because today becomes tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes a month, and a month becomes a year. That's how futures are built. Not by wishing, but by honoring commitments. Your future self is listening to what you promise today, not what you say publicly, not what you post, what you promise in private. So before you make another promise, pause. Ask yourself, will I keep this? If the answer is yes, commit. If the answer is no, don't promise yet. Build slowly. Build honestly. Because when your word becomes solid, your confidence follows. Your discipline follows. Your life follows. And one day, you'll look back and realize everything changed the moment. You stopped making promises to impress yourself and started keeping promises to respect yourself. There comes a moment in life when you stop asking, what do I want? And you start asking, who must I become? Because success is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. And the foundation of that person is integrity with yourself, keeping your word, especially when no one is watching. You see, anyone can make promises. Promises are easy. They cost nothing. But character is expensive. It is built in moments of resistance, in moments of fatigue, in moments when quitting would be easier. That's where people are revealed. The person who keeps their word doesn't rely on motivation. They rely on identity. They don't say, I'll try. They say, this is who I am. And identity is powerful because when you decide, I am the kind of person who keeps their word, your behavior begins to align automatically. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop negotiating. You stop waiting to feel ready. You act. And action strengthens belief. Here's a truth few people understand. Self-discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in practice. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send a message. I matter. And when you matter to yourself, your standards rise. You no longer tolerate excuses. You no longer accept inconsistency. You no longer settle for good enough because your word means something now. And when your word means something to you, it begins to mean something to the world. Opportunities trust you. People trust you. Life responds differently, not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it. Becoming the person who keeps their word does not require perfection. It requires alignment. Alignment between what you say and what you do. Start small. Always small. Promise yourself something simple, something undeniable, and keep it. Then repeat. That's how identity is formed. Most people want to change their life without changing their behavior. But life doesn't respond to intention. It responds to pattern. And patterns are created through repetition. The repetition of keeping your word. Over time, something remarkable happens. You stop feeling fragile. You stop feeling uncertain. You stop doubting yourself because you have evidence that you can be trusted. And self-trust is the root of confidence. Confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from consistency, from doing what you said you would do long after the excitement fades. That's why discipline is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It shows up early. It stays late. It finishes. Now let me ask you something. What kind of person do you want to be known as? The one who talks or the one who follows through? Because the world is full of promises, but it is starving for reliability. And reliability begins at home. With you, the moment you become solid with yourself, everything else begins to stabilize. Your focus improves. Your energy increases. Your confidence deepens. You move with certainty, not arrogance, not noise, quiet strength. And that strength compounds. One kept promise leads to another, and another, and another, until one day you realize you are no longer trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You are no longer trying to be confident. You are confident because you became the person who keeps their word. And once you reach that point, your life has a new foundation, a foundation that does not shake, a foundation built on integrity. So don't ask for more motivation. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Make a decision. Decide who you are, then prove it. Quietly, daily, by keeping your word. When you begin to keep promises to yourself, something quiet happens first. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Your shoulders straighten. Your voice changes. Your walk becomes calmer. Because now, you trust yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of a powerful life. You see, the world does not decide your future first. You decide it, and the world responds. When you keep your word to yourself, you stop needing motivation. You stop needing approval. You stop needing someone to push you. You become the kind of person who moves because you said you would, and life treats that person differently. Success begins to cooperate with you. Opportunities seem to notice you. People feel your presence before you speak, not because you're louder, but because you're solid. Let me tell you something important. Confidence is not built by thinking positive thoughts. Confidence is built by keeping small promises. You said you'd wake up early, and you did. You said you'd work on yourself, and you did. You said you'd stop quitting, and this time, you didn't. That's where confidence comes from. And when confidence arrives, fear begins to leave. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I keep going? That shift changes everything, because now your goals feel possible, not because they're easy, but because you are reliable. Self-trust creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Belief creates action, and action creates results. This is the chain reaction of keeping promises. And here's the beautiful part. Once you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with weakness. You don't say, maybe tomorrow. You don't say, I'll try. You say, I said I would. And that settles the conversation. Your emotions stop running your life. Your excuses lose their power. Your discipline becomes natural. You don't fight yourself anymore. And when you stop fighting yourself, you gain enormous energy. That energy shows up in your work, in your relationships, in how you carry yourself. People may not know why you've changed, but they will feel it. They'll say, something's different about you. Yes, what's different is this. You no longer betray yourself, and life rewards that. You see, The world gives more responsibility to people who can be trusted. If you can't trust yourself with small things, life won't trust you with big things. But when you show day after day that you keep your word, life opens bigger doors. Not all at once, but surely, because self-trust is proof of character, and character determines destiny. Now listen closely. The life that follows self-trust is not perfect. You'll still struggle. You'll still get tired, but you won't quit on yourself. And that makes all the difference. Because winners aren't people who never fail. They're people who never abandon themselves. When things get hard, you don't run. You adjust. When things slow down, you don't stop. You persist. And one day quietly you realize something extraordinary. You've become the person you once needed. Not because someone saved you, but because you kept your word. And that's power. Real power. The kind that can't be taken away. So here's the final thought. If you want a better life, don't start by changing your circumstances. Start by changing your promises. Make fewer promises. Make smaller promises. But keep every single one, because every kept promise is a brick. And you are building a fortress of self-respect. And once that fortress stands, no storm can shake you. Keep your word. Trust yourself. And watch the kind of life that follows. Because when you believe in yourself, life believes in you too. So let me leave you with this. Your life does not change all at once. It changes one promise at a time. Not the promises you make to others. Those matter. But the promises you make to yourself matter more. Because every time you keep your word, you strengthen your character. And every time you break it, you weaken your future. Success is not a mystery. It is a pattern of small disciplines practiced every day. Start today, not with a grand vow, but with a simple decision. Choose one promise. Keep it. Then choose another. Keep that one too. And soon, you won't be chasing confidence. You won't be searching for direction. You'll have it. Because when you trust yourself, everything else begins to fall into place. Keep your word. Build your character. And let your life rise to meet the person you are becoming.